So the last talk of the day is you don't have to have high this fancy people Skyping. He's actually here. It's Chuanmin Hu. Chuanmin was a graduate student. Graduated like 97 or yeah, okay, 97. He was one of my students. Howard was on his committee. He left us, went to USF for a postdoc, and actually never left USF. He's now a professor at USF in marine sciences. And having an illustrious career there. It's nice to see. Okay, what do you want to teach you? And afterwards, we should try to get a picture somehow. So don't run real quickly away. All right? So, thank you.
Thank you. Well, by the way, I'm not part of that gang of four.
You are not.
I'm not.
Yeah,
Gong, Bing, and
Ji, yeah.
Chuanmin Hu. Anyway, I want to thank Dr. Kim Moss, my graduate advisor, for inviting me, and it's a great honor to be here to give a presentation in honor of Dr. Gordon's retirement and achievements. And I also feel very pleased to see my former mentors, teachers, and the pioneers in this field, whose papers I sometimes read over and over. Actually, in addition to physics, some of you also taught me other classes. Dr. Bunny Bosch taught me biological oceanography, and Dr. Arthur Moreno taught me physical oceanography. Thank you. But now, you know whom to blame if I make a mistake. And many of you also taught me through your papers. Anyway, before I move to this, I have something to present. A present to Dr. Gordon. It's not a pair of shoes. It's from another gang of three. All are Dr. Gordon's students, former students. It's a glove, crystal glove. From reader of Dr. Gordon's former student. Let me read. Dr. Howard Gordon, enjoy your retirement. Now, more time to cruise. I suppose it's not research cruise. Casino. And observe ocean color. From your students, Kui Yuan Di, Tao Du, and Tianmin Zhang. Yeah, that brings so much good memory. And almost every TGIF, Dr. Gordon would buy a case of Budweiser. So instead of afternoon tea, we had afternoon tea. And from which we chat over basically anything, including radio transfer. But my radio transfer was formally educated for Dr. Gordon's class. And I have to say it takes years to learn how to understand and how to use. But today, I want to talk about much simpler, elementary level subtraction. And even at that level, I still need croners and collaborators. And jokingly, Brian France, Moon Hwa Wang, a couple of other colleagues from NAWA, and Carter, who sit in the audience, and my Chinese colleague. So we collaborated on different topics, which led to this simple subtraction concept. And as usual, my first slide is always to acknowledge my financial support and data providers, and we receive a lot of support. I'm very grateful. So, three basic things. Background. So what is the problem? That's what I want to show you. Okay? To show you what problem we faced and how we struggled, still without a solution. But then, because of two coastal accidents, those led to a partial solution to this new concept in aggregate. So here, many of you have seen this. And this is today's state-of-the-art ocean color remote sensing. And because of many decades of efforts of many people, including you sitting in the room, so we could do global ocean color remote sensing. This is composed from silvers. Okay. Now the question is, even with this state-of-the-art, how much can we trust this? Okay, it's like magic. I remember first, when I was first here, I read the newspaper. Dr. Gordon's interview. Some like a magician, like a Dr. Gordon, could count phytoplankton particles from space. This is like amazing. How much can you trust? And Ming-Ha showed some validation. Here's another one. Global-wise, again, this is for many people. People go out like data, and each data point may cost tens of thousands of dollars. And you understand the variability, the uncertainty. And overall, the slope is 1 to 1, but there is a lot that's there in each range. And remember, this is very expensive. No matter how much data you collect, you never have enough to cover the global ocean. Okay, to have an unbiased estimate. So another way to see how much you can trust is to compare different sensors looking at the same ocean, same time. Ideally, they should give you the same answer. Right? And if you do a ratio between silvers and modes for many years, many months, the ideal situation is you have 1.0 all the time. That's what you expect. But they don't behave like that. Okay? And occasionally, the difference is more than 10%. And how much global ocean, this is deep ocean, how much deep ocean can change over years? Okay? Maybe a few percent. Now the two sensors give you a difference, 5–10%. So if you have two sensors give you different answer, which one do you trust? Or in other words, if you have one sensor give you a trend, how much do you trust? So what costs us? And this is the global area. If you go to an individual image, zoom in, this is the North Atlantic jar. From silvers to get data. Look at the range. It's very, very clear. Mostly less than 0.1 milligram per cubic meter. Okay. So what you observe are some spectral noise. Not just around the cloud edge, but look at this patch. And this is a type of noise, not just from digitalization, not only from sensor noise, but also from other reasons, which I will show you. And we suspect it's this type of noise that make a big contribution to the cross-sensor. You cannot average them out. So how come we have this noise? And that goes back to the theory and the principles. And Ming-Ha showed already, but here for the students, a visual example. So what you see from a satellite is something like this picture. If you use the 3 bands to compose it, it's fuzzy because a lot of the signal, majority of the signal comes from the battery. If you do a good atmospheric move, looks simple, but it took more than a decade to do a good job by the whole community, led by Dr. Gordon, Dr. Wang, and their co-workers. So this is not simple stuff. Okay, so after you get the reflectance, you convert the reflectance to whatever is in the ocean. In this example, it's a broken egg. Using what we call an inversion area. And that work also took more than a decade for many of you. There could be errors in each of these two steps. And Min Hu talked about atmospheric already, so I won't touch upon it. So here, the second step to convert the surface reflectance to flow. How do people do it? From the very beginning, this is the first the aircraft surveys in the ocean. And people find the pioneers. So for the ocean going from blue to green, with the concentration increasing, the green bands remains stable, but the blue band decreasing. So how do you relate this spectral change to the concentration change? A simple way is to do a blue versus green ratio. Okay. That's the idea of the pioneers. And that idea was followed by generations to CDCS, to CWIS, to models. It's a ratio. I admit there are other ways to do this, but the popular way is still to do a ratio. With different blue bands, different green bands, different coefficients for the sigma ratio. And the problem with the ratio is if the numerator and denominator are similar, like a 1-to-1. If you have the same error in the numerator and denominator, you still get the same ratio. But when they are very different, for example, 8-to-1 or 1-to-8, you add a little error in both. This error will propagate to the ratio and also propagate to the growth. And that's what you observe in the spectral image. And here, what's shown on the screen is focus on one image pixel and see how much difference you have in the surrounding pixels in the ocean gyre. Okay. Unlike the quantum particles, nature doesn't jump. You should have a smooth change. If it doesn't, something's wrong. Okay. Over here, this is extremely clear water. The neighboring pixels jump by 30 to 60%. That's because your ratio is high. It's 8-to-1 or 10-to-1. So slight error will give you a 5. So when the ratio approaches 1-to-1, you don't have that spectral. So that's a noise problem. Likewise, if your atmospheric has some error, especially in the blue bands, because that's extrapolation from the near infrared, that error is on top of the reflector and will propagate to grow in the scenery effect. So for clear water, we have a lot of spectral error. And for moderate concentration water, it's okay. And for extremely turbid water, we also have this, but it's hard to judge because those water may have a realistic change from pixel to pixel. So that's digitization noise. And I simulated this phenomenon, and Min Hu later on used a more realistic noise model to simulate this. We also found this is based on sequence. And on top of this, atmospheric error, and that's estimated error. Most of the time you have this quantity in the reflectors. And you have white paths correcting, you have sunken correcting, VRDF correcting. All those are not perfect. You have slight error. They are on top of this. Okay. So these are well known for at least a decade. Okay. And these are the state-of-the-art approaches. Okay. It's like when you want to take the exam, you achieve already 95. And you move forward. That's very good. Now, how do we bring together different sensors to give you a consistent time sequence? We have no solution. And we once tried to use some tricks to do a 3x3 mean on top of the atmosphere. And that's actually built-in CDOTs. You can try 3x3, 5x5. But that's cosmetic, smooth. That doesn't solve the problem. No answer, but we have to move on. So we move to work on other projects. Now, I want to show you how those coastal That's Olympic sailing area. You can see people physically remove this area. There are more than 10,000 people involved, multi-million. And worse than that, the local officials were accused of their poor environmental management. So look at your environment, your pollution. So they face pressure. And working with my Chinese colleague, so we try to trace the origin of this group using a very simple method, NDVI. This macroalgae is a vegetation in the ocean floating on the surface. If you want to do a perfect atmospheric, you need to do atmospheric on algae-free water first. Then use a nearest neighbor propagation to propagate to the algae species. That is because the algae here also has water-leaving radius or reflectance even in the shortwave infrared. So it's not black in any wavelengths. But this one, the NDVI, near infrared minus red divided by the sum of this. That has been used for 5 decades. Used for land vegetation, and it also works. And from here, if you look at the date, May, June. So it came from this place. So this released the pressure from the local government. So it's not their problem, it's other places' problem. So problem solved for that. But I was not satisfied because of this simplicity. Actually, because if we want to estimate the area of this area, not just by visualizing, by having a quantitative estimate, how much area of this area? It's so hard with NDVI. Look at those hazes. That's a haze atmosphere. And you cannot have a fixed threshold to separate algae-free water from algae water because of this haziness. This is a very clear atmosphere. This is a very clear atmosphere. You see the background is so clear. Then, before we jump into that very sophisticated atmospheric nearest neighbor, is there a simple solution? Now we examined the spectral shape of algae and water in the clear atmosphere and also in the turbid atmosphere. Just look at their shape and magnitude. Then we found the difference between the height in the near infrared and this baseline. We call this a subtraction. That is invariant regardless of your atmosphere height. Right? If you have a turbid atmosphere, this whole spectrum is lifted, but this difference doesn't change. It's invariant. Now, is this correct? Now, what I learned from Dr. Gordon Taylor, we used the simulations to prove, so under different atmospheric conditions, this is indeed invariant. So from every pixel now, either algae or water, we can derive the height of this band relative to the neighboring band. This is similar to fluorescent line height, if you are familiar with that concept. Now look at the contrast. The NDVI between two images and the new floating algae index between two images. Now we can set up a threshold to separate algae from background. And that threshold doesn't change from each to each. You can estimate it. And more than that, you look at cloud 8. Here. Look at cloud 8. It removes the cloud 8 adjacency effect as well. So it worked pretty nice. And we apply this technique to not only study this macroalgae, but also the sargassum macroalgae in the Gulf of Mexico. And also cyanobacteria blooms in lakes, because when the wind is small, they pop up to form scums. Just behave like this. And we can estimate the area. So that story is good. That shows from simulation and from image, this subtraction is better than the NDVI ratio. because it's tolerance with the propagation of energy. Then 2 years later, we had this major tragedy in the Gulf of Mexico. A once 100-year oil spill. So how was I involved in oil spill? I was not before 2009 until I searched for harmful algal bloom or red tide in the Gulf of Mexico. I found some weird features on the sunglade. Then eventually I found on the sunglade you can better define oil slicks than without sunglade. Then 1 year later we had this tragic event, so I was involved in this oil spill. But during the oil spill, the problem with ocean color was not delineating oil slicks. That's easy, you can visualize, delineate. But this problem. So the physical oceanographers want to model the oil transport. Okay, so they have sophisticated models. To validate the models, they need either to go there, which is very expensive, not possible every day, or use some imagery to validate the 80 patterns from circulation. Okay. One of the tools they used was the altimeter, the surface height, but that has coarse resolution, and every 8 days you can compose an image. And this is real-time response. They cannot wait. Temperature in Gulf of Mexico in summer, this is May, June, it is 31 degrees everywhere. You have no contrast. You can't use. So color imagery is very useful, but you have something. This is May, June, so almost summer solstice. Almost every day you have something. Even if you have no cloud, you have no signal. So my physical oceanographer colleagues asked me, you said you're a ocean color expert. You can't even give me a simple crude picture. Then I felt ashamed. You have data, how come you cannot give me a picture? Because as ocean color, most sensitive people, we always want to derive chlorophyll. We pay too much attention to this accuracy. Now, with some things, okay, with some crude way, can we derive just a relative color pattern and satisfy their needs? They don't care about that chlorophyll. So then again, we look at the spectral shape with and without something and see if we could come up with a simple way. Okay. This is without something. Clear water pixel, this is with something. See how much signal we pop up. Very bright. And before this, Min-Hua Wang and Chuanmin Hu already had an algorithm to estimate the sunlight contribution to the total reflected radius, okay, based on Koch's model. So they come up with a very nice way to remove this, just to subtract this off, and work on the rest of the equation. Very nicely, up to a certain degree of sunlight strength. Above that strength, the error is too much for chlorophyll retrieval, so they put a mask. And the mask we saw here was not only because of uncertainty for strong sunlight, but also because ocean band is saturated. You have no signal from ocean band. So basically, you have only 4 bands to work with. How come you can derive something with 4 bands? Strong something with contamination. Again, we try to look at this distance between this green band and this line. Obviously, the distance in these 2 scenarios is different. But after removing the sunlight contribution using this band as a reference, we can force the distance to be the same after many trial and errors. So this is empirical. And here's the result. The 2-color image, you can at least visualize the lucron 80, lucron, and some color values. You may argue this is not accurate, but they don't care. They only need the location of this 80. And compare with the standard, the chlorophyll images. To the right, that's an 8-day composite of the Orinoco River, this body river. even after 8-day composite, you still have a lot of data gap. Not due to clouds, but due to sun. And this is the new relative color index. Just one day, a snapshot. And you see how much more information you get from 1 day versus 8 day. Because we have different emphasis. We emphasize on the relative pattern. They emphasize on acres. It's two different things. And now, people can use this to trace the river pool, 80 fronts, and ocean meandering. So it's a real-time product. So that's cool. So after the oil spill, I sat back and thought about this very question. How come a very crude, something to remove, just the subtraction, and a very crude color index can give you a relatively stable color picture? What was the reason? So something must be tolerant to the errors. So it must be that design, the subtracting design, that is tolerant to errors. No matter how much error you have to remove, tolerant. Now, can we extend that same concept to the remote sensing reflectors derived from satellites to estimate the source? So this is one spectrum, 6 bands. So if we define this as a color index, this distance between this band versus the line of blue, red, is this a function of score? If it is, we know for any analytic errors, if you have an error like this green, adding this error on top of this, you have this one. But this is invariant. So the only thing is this CI a function of the curve? And it turned out it is for some of the ocean. So this is from NOMAD data set, again, for many researchers. We just plot that color index against the field measure curve. This is HPLC curve. So for this range, it's very nice relationship. But above this, falls apart. But still, if we combine this part and the traditional algorithm working for the other part, and we have a joint algorithm, we may improve the profile retrieval for the global, especially for this low concentration waters. By traditional definition, 0.25 is clear water. So this is clear water in chlorophyll. We name it the color index algorithm, CIA. But before we move on, I asked ourselves, how come? Because we all remember back in 2030 years, Gordon and Morel published a paper and explicitly commented on this type of subtraction versus band ratio. Okay, so here, back in the 70s, and people already proposed a blue-green subtraction, just 2-band subtraction, okay? And also blue-green ratio. And Dr. Gordon commented on this. So the reflecting is proportional to this. If you use blue minus green, so then if you have independent BB in this numerator, this subtraction will not remove that independence. So if you have 2 parts of the ocean, BB is independent, that independence is reserved in subtraction, but that independence is removed if you use a ratio. But from the regression, we see for clear water, that's not the case. Why not? So we did some simulations, in-water simulations, and this is Chuanmin Hu's work. By looking at the physics behind that color index, is approximately by this. And we have water and particle in the numerator. And each term is a combination of absorption and scattering. And for clear water, this part, the water term dominates. The particle term is much smaller. And water scattering is pretty much constant. It's water. So even if you have independent BD from particles, that independence does not change much the overall picture. Okay, that's what it does. And in the end, for clear water, this color index is proportional to, you see, the particle term to total absorption inversely. And I emailed Dr. and asked him about this, subtraction versus ratio, and asked him whether this for clear water it makes sense. And he said yes, it does make sense. And I had the same feeling as Kurt. So Dr. Gordon said, that's okay. So this is good. Now this is only the in-water part. And we also did a lot of atmosphere simulations, adding different aerosol thickness types, and see how this color index is sensitive or insensitive to those observations. And it is very, very insensitive to those observations. I don't have the slide, but in the paper I showed for the extreme case, the angstrom exponent is 1.5, 1.6. Well, for the global ocean, the average angstrom exponent of aerosol is 0.7, 0.8. For the extreme case, the aerosol is very curved. If you have 100% error in the green reflectance at 555, 100%, you only have 5% error in the retrieved flow. That's extreme aerosol case. For the typical aerosol case, the 100% reflecting error would propagate flow to only 2% flow. Very tolerant. And because of that tolerance, now if we do statistics over seawaves and the moles again, that's seawaves, that's moles, the band ratio algorithm would give you this much error in neighborhood tissues as a function of the curve. So it decreases with increase. But this new algorithm will give you a much lower error, which is also independent of the curve concentration. That's seawaves, that's knowledge. And this is exactly as what is predicted from the simulations. And what is more important than the error? If you look at the magnitude, this is less than 10%, this is less than 5%. Small is more sensitive. 5% of 0.02 concentration. That's extremely low. And today's commercial instruments would give you a precision of chlorophyll of about 0.01. Now from satellite, we can give you 20 times higher precision because of the integration over the entire water column. So that way you can have a very subtle aid, even in ocean giants. Previously you could not, because you can have a subtle difference across the spatial distance. But that's simulation and statistics. How valid or how accurate is it? We have to use the in situ data to validate. This is seawaves, this is knowledge. The circles are the band ratio. The green dots are the new color index data. For this one, we force them to agree with each other. Because the new algorithm doesn't work for this range, so we force them to agree with each other. But for the low range, you see it's much higher and closer to this 1.9 for both seawaves and knowledge. We have statistics, root mean square, mean ratio, slope, intercept, in every measure. This one is new algorithm is better than the ratio for this range. Now going back to the original individual picture as I showed us before, and with the new algorithm we have this. So all those staples are there. The input to the two algorithms is identical, the same reflectors. So that's a spatial spectral noise. But look at temporal change. And with the old algorithm, plotting the daily data over a course of a year from the center of the graph, you have this time series. A 3 by 3D, the standard error bar tells you how different the neighboring pixels are. And the time series tells how different day-to-day variation is. As I said, nature should not jump. But in this time series, it does jump. Now applying the new algorithm to the same reflected data, same input, we have this. So not only the neighboring pixel is more homogeneous, but also you see a much clearer similarity. So putting everything together, looking at the large picture again, this global ocean cross-sensor difference used to be this way. Now it became this way. It's still not perfect, but you see most of this cross-sensor difference is removed. Not just from the negative side, but also from the positive. But that's everything. You put millions of pixels together with the average number. And if you look at the data distribution in 1 month between sequence and models, overall they are very good agreement. Okay? But you have subtle difference. One is sequence, one is models. With the new one, they agree with each other in much better way. And more than that, now instead of having 2 models, we have 3 models. I believe that's, this you may have a better definition of ocean charges or ocean terms. Now this is Min Hao Wang's work. I asked him to put slide. So this is MOBI, okay? Their independent evaluation. So this is MOBI divided profile using band ratio. This is a Beers divided profile using Beers data. Same band ratio. The majority of data is okay, but you see this scale. The same data, but use the same color index algorithm. It's much better. And if you put all this data in the time scale, this is the old one. The MOBI data is green. The band ratio. The Beers band ratio is green. Same data, use the new algorithm. Agreement is much better. So that's really possible. And here's another piece of work from Oregon State, from the SEC. This is the HOTS, Hawaii Ocean Time Series. So people went out and collected historical data. That's cool. You see similarity, winter high, summer, every range. And this is the new algorithm. We have way more data points, but the seasonality and also the magnitude are the same. And with the old, the band ratio algorithm, you can't even see the seasonality. But look at the range. Very clear. So now, before I conclude, I want to entertain your eyes with some image comparison. Okay. So this is the band ratio Morris curve. You see the cloud adjacency spectral noise. You see the sunlit residual errors. And this new algorithm takes care of both. This is a series image. You see some A dipole. But you also see errors and cloud A defect. With a new algorithm, have another 80 here. That measures the ratio error, the subtraction error. You see clearly the statement. That's a CDCS in the North Atlantic gyre, Norway. CDCS is 8-bit sensor, customized for coastal, not for the ocean gyre. So what do you see from ocean gyre? You see west to east gradient. But other than that, you see noise. You have no way to see anything. But with this new one, you see something. You see anything. And that west-east gradient is about removed, to our surprise. And this is the most recent GOSI, the geostationary satellite from South Korea. So they merged several slots, mosaic together, you see this H effect. So if we zoom in the box, this is one of their products. Perhaps they have revised this already. This is several years old. But not only you see the H effect, but you see something striking. We don't know what caused it. But applying this new one could give you a completely new image. It's like it's from a different sensor, but it's the same. You can still see some subtle effect at this page. You see alien area. And another box. You see this alien effect. So you can observe aliens much better. Right? So now what? So that's for clear water. As Dr. Gordon said, it should not work on coastal water. So we never tried this until much recently. One of my students said, "Hey, it doesn't hurt. Let's try anyway." Yeah. So this is one of the famous lakes in China, Taihu Lake, in Hashou. Frequently, it gets this cyanobacteria blue-green algae. Okay. It's so difficult to perform atmospheric in Hashou, and also difficult to convert the corrected reflectance to, in this case, to final phycocyanin pigment concentration. That's a signature pigment of cyanobacteria. Then my students just use the same way. Look at the spectral shape of the measured reflectance. So that's with a high concentration of cyanobacteria. This blue is with a low concentration. And back in 1993, Arnold Decker already proposed in his dissertation a subtraction method using 3 bands of heat. Somewhere over here, I can't remember exactly. But those 3 bands are not available on satellites. So nobody ever tried it until now. So my students, let's try it. Marriage has this 3 bands. So let's form a and both subtracting and see if this distance is a function of phycocyanin pigment concentration. It turned out yes. For this particular case, yes. Then the rest is just exercise with the simulations, radio transfer models. Once you know the interest, it's easy. And to our surprise, especially to my surprise, this way also works on situations that should not work. Like this case. This is very turbid. This is just 1 day apart, 424, 425. This is very turbid due to wind resuspension, sediment resuspension. This is not turbid. Apply the same algorithm. You get a very consistent result. This is a high concentration of cyanobacteria and no concentration or low concentration. If you histogram or statistics, these 2 images are very close. So that's a surprise. But it works for this lake. For other lakes, I wouldn't say anything. Now a small summary. So over the course of a couple of years, we worked on a new open ocean growth concept based on a three-band. The theoretical basis is just like band ratio, is inversely proportional to total absorption. It is tolerant to curfew independent constituents to a certain degree, and is very tolerant to errors in atmospheric. And the performance evaluation showed by any measure is better. But it does have some caveats, so we need to pay attention. Right now, NASA has implemented this already for global data processing, and Minhua's group is evaluating this algorithm to see if they want to adopt the same thing. One of the caveats is, remember, we have merged two algorithms together. In merging soon, we want to make sure it's a smooth transition. Another thing is the coefficient tuning. So it may work better in one ocean basin than another ocean basin. So how do we adopt the same algorithm but different coefficients to make it better? Of course, it suffers from C-down contamination as with any other empirical algorithm. That's a problem we have to work on. With that, I have several conclusions. First, research is full of surprise. Sometimes very pleasant, many times not. But this came as a total surprise, and we never designed this. This is purely inspired by two coastal accidents, and without those, we could not have gone this far. So this is a good example of surprise. You never know what you get. So I studied the red light, then I came to the motor suit, then I came to this crude sunken track, came to this color index. Second, coastal ocean and open ocean, they are connected. I do not mean they are physically connected. Everybody knows that. They're connected in principles. So one thing you learn from coastal ocean may be applied to the global ocean. And lastly, it's simple better. I have to say it's not always. But for this case, for a certain part of the ocean, 0.25, the cutoff, that applies to 80% of the globe. For that part, the simple algorithm gives you much better results to bring different sensors together. And we have tried over many spheres, or it always gives you a better result than the ratio algorithm. And how come this elementary level stuff is not there for years? So I have to say it's not just elementary subject. It is backed up by radial transfer simulations and understanding the light propagation theory. Otherwise, you just do a simple subtraction. You don't understand why it works, why it does not. With that, I want to thank all my teachers in this room for their education during my 5 years of work in this department. Thank you very much.